I still remember the exact moment the message popped up on my phone. He just got arrested. And it's bad. My hands went cold. Not out of fear. Not out of shock. But out of something far deeper. A simmering, sharp satisfaction that I'd been waiting years to feel. Because the man getting hauled away in cuffs, that was the same man who spent months convincing me I was worthless. The same man who pretended he was a saint to everyone else while turning my life into a private hell. And when I realized he was finally facing real consequences, I decided I wasn't done. Not even close. If you've ever been abused, manipulated, or gaslit by someone who fooled the entire world, this story will hit home. And if you've ever wished karma would finally catch up to the person who ruined your life, buckle in. Make sure to like, subscribe, and get ready. Because today's story is one of the most brutally satisfying justice arcs you'll hear all week. I met Eric the way a lot of people meet. Their future nightmares through mutual friends who swore he was the sweetest guy alive. They said he was charming, responsible, reliable, the kind of man who knows how to treat a woman right, if only they knew. When we first started dating, it felt like the beginning of a fairy tale. He was attentive, thoughtful, and always said the right thing at the right time. I remember one night when we were sitting on his porch, cold breeze brushing across our skin, and he wrapped his jacket around me like some kind of gentleman out of a movie. He looked me in the eye and said, "I would never hurt you." And I believed him. But abusers don't start with bruises. They start with charm, then carve out pieces of your confidence while smiling. The shift was subtle. It always is. At first, it was an offhand remark about something I wore. Then it was him joking about how emotional I was. Then laughing at my goals as if they were childish fantasies. Little darts, little cuts, little ways of teaching me I needed his validation. He didn't yell, that's not how he worked. His cruelty was quiet, strategic, designed to make me question myself. And he always made sure to play the perfect man in public. To everyone else, he was friendly, helpful, the guy who would fix your sink and help you move furniture and charm your grandmother, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Behind closed doors, though, he would take every insecurity I ever shared with him. Things I confessed during vulnerable moments, and weaponized them. "You're too sensitive. No one else would put up with this. You're lucky I'm patient." Abusers love planting seeds that bloom into self-doubt. It took me months to realize I wasn't in a relationship. I was in a training program designed to make me small. The emotional abuse worsened. The manipulation deepened. He isolated me piece by piece, pushing away friends, discouraging hobbies, making sure I never had time to breathe. But like all controlling people, he eventually slipped up. It happened on a Tuesday night. He thought I was asleep. I wasn't. His phone lit up on the nightstand. A message preview flashed. "I miss you too." Not exactly something you text a coworker. I picked up the phone and opened it. And what I found wasn't just cheating. It was an entire other relationship. A full, parallel life with another woman he'd been seeing for months. Flirty messages. Promises. Plans. Photos. The worst part wasn't the cheating. The worst part was realizing he had used the same manipulative tactics on her. The same fake sweetness, the same lies, the same rehearsed charm. He was a pattern, not a mistake. When he woke up and saw me sitting there with his phone in my hand, he didn't even panic. He just exhaled and said, "This is why people say you're dramatic." Gaslighting, effortless, rehearsed. The breakup was messy, painful, and long overdue. But eventually I got out. I blocked him, erased him from my life, and quietly rebuilt myself. And for the most part, I moved on. Until that message came. He just got arrested. And it's bad. At first I stared at my phone, blinking. "Eric? Arrested?" I opened the attached link. And there it was, his mugshot. Full name. Charges. The kind of charges you don't just walk away from. Serious charges. Charges that make you sick to your stomach. Charges that make you rethink every moment you ever spent in the same room with someone. Reading them felt like someone had dropped ice water into my veins. But that shock quickly turned into something else. A deep, simmering sense of vindication. Because all those times people told me, "He's such a nice guy. There's no way he did that. You must be exaggerating." All those times I doubted my own sanity. All those moments I carried the blame he planted in me. Now, it was all unraveling right in front of him. And I realized something. Karma wasn't finished with him. And neither was I. For years he had hidden behind charm. Behind manipulation. Behind a carefully constructed persona he used to fool everyone. Friends. Co-workers, strangers. But now I had truth. And truth is a powerful thing. I started small. The first thing I did was go through every dating profile he had. Because controlling men love validation. He had multiple accounts across different apps. And I reported every single one. Not with vague claims. Not with speculation. With details. With citations. With his actual charges, the kind of reports apps take seriously. Within hours, one of the apps banned him entirely. Then another. Then another. Next, I posted on my own Facebook page. Calm. Factual statement about what he had been charged with, the pattern of behavior he had displayed, and the reality behind the mask he wore. I didn't rant. I didn't rage. I didn't insult him. I simply told the truth. Because truth, when spoken clearly, is louder than any scream. The comments began pouring in. People were stunned. Some were shocked. Some apologized for not believing me earlier. Some said they always had a weird feeling about him. Then something unexpected happened. The post got shared. A lot. Apparently, the local newspaper monitors public FB posts for potential leads. Guess they saw mine, because within 2 days, there he was. His charges featured in a local article. Details included. No sugarcoating. I didn't send them the story. I didn't have to. They found it themselves. Then just when I thought things couldn't escalate further, his workplace found out. Now let me be clear. I didn't call them out of the blue. I didn't go on a crusade. But I did know his boss personally. We'd been friendly long before I dated Eric, and I trusted him to do the right thing. So I sent a message. Short. Direct. This is what's happening. You should know. He responded in under a minute. Thank you. We'll handle this immediately. Within 24 hours, Eric was removed from company platforms. His profile scrubbed, his position placed under legal review. His best friend, someone who had always defended him, always dismissed my concerns, always claimed I was too emotional, reached out next. He asked what happened. I sent him the charges. He called me. I believe you, he said quietly. I could hear the betrayal in his voice. Not toward me. Toward Eric, his so-called best friend. And that was the moment I finally felt it. Relief. Not triumph. Not vengeance. Just release. Years of silence, dismissal, manipulation, and pain finally being acknowledged. And as everything continued crashing down on Eric, extradition, charges, job fallout, social fallout, I realized something profound. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of him anymore. In the days that followed, I watched everything unfold from a distance. Not out of spite, but out of a quiet, steady sense of closure. After years of feeling like I was drowning in doubt and forced silence, it felt strangely empowering to finally stand on solid ground. But here's the thing about people like Eric. They don't go down quietly, even from jail, even with charges stacking higher than anything he could talk his way out of. He did what manipulators always do. He tried to regain control. His friends told me he was saying things like, "She's exaggerating. This is all a misunderstanding. People are twisting the truth." And of course, the classic, "She's lying because she's bitter." But there's a limit to how far manipulation can go when you've been arrested, extradited across state lines, and plastered on the front page of a local newspaper. Even his usual charm, the mask he relied on, was useless now, because people finally saw him without it. The cracks he'd spent years trying to hide were now split open for everyone to see. I found myself sitting on my couch late at night, phone glowing soft against my hands, reading messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. Some apologized. Some admitted they had believed him over me. Some said they felt guilty they hadn't checked in on me more often. Strangely, I didn't feel angry at them. I didn't feel vindictive. I didn't feel the need to say, "I told you so." I felt something more mature than that. I felt seen. Because the truth is, when you're trapped in an abusive relationship, the world feels incredibly small. The abuser becomes the sun, the moon, and the whole sky. And when you escape, you're left trying to figure out which way is up again. Now, for the first time, people were finally understanding the version of reality I had lived in for so long. But the real breaking point for Eric came a few days later. The moment that tied every loose emotional thread in the story into the knot. I didn't even know I needed. It started with a call from a mutual acquaintance. Someone who was once deeply loyal to him. "Did you hear?" she asked. I didn't know what she was referring to. "He had a meltdown in holding," she said. Like a full-on screaming match with guards. They had to move him. I sat there, processing it slowly. This was the man who used to raise his voice at me so calmly. Like he was conducting a lecture. The man who thought of himself as composed. Superior, untouchable. Melting down in a jail cell? That was new. She continued. "He keeps saying someone set him up. He keeps saying people turned on him. He's blaming everyone. He can't believe people know." There it was. That last sentence. He can't believe people know. That was the truth that finally hit me deep. Because that had always been Eric's biggest fear. Not accountability, not consequences, not the truth. Exposure. The collapse of the image he had built his entire life around. People like him need admirers, need defenders, need an audience to applaud the mask. Without it, they're nothing but ghosts. Hollow, panicked, scrambling for control. And in that moment, hearing how he was unraveling, I realized this wasn't revenge anymore. This was the natural outcome of a lifetime of manipulation he had inflicted on others. Still, the story wasn't done. About a week later, I got a message from his closest friend, the same friend who had defended him for years, the one I mentioned earlier who finally believed me. He asked if we could talk. We met at a small cafe, neutral territory. I walked in expecting an awkward conversation, maybe a quick apology, but he looked devastated in a way I did not anticipate. When he sat down, he exhaled shakily and said, "I think I enabled him." It took me a moment to register that. He wasn't just sad. He wasn't just shocked. He was grieving the loss of a friendship he thought he understood. He explained slowly that he had witnessed things over the years that didn't make sense until... Now, patterns, lies, excuses, the way Eric had spoken about women behind their backs, the way he used people, the way he twisted stories in his favor. He put his hands together and said, "I never realized who he really was. I defended him over you, and I'm sorry. I felt something soften in me and something I didn't expect." "Don't apologize to me," I told him gently. "You believed the version of him he wanted you to see." He nodded, staring at the table. After a long silence, he added something heavy. He asked me to vouch for him. To tell people it was all made up? I blinked. "What did you say?" I told him no. I'm done covering for him. He needs to face what he did. That landed in my heart like a final chord, a long-awaited resonance that closed the entire emotional loop. Because for the first time, someone who once supported him without question had finally stopped. Someone who once saw me as dramatic or emotional or exaggerating now saw him clearly. It wasn't just his world collapsing. It was the entire facade he had built. During this time, I kept doing what I believed was right, calmly, quietly, consistently making sure that every relevant space he operated in was informed. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated, just facts. His dating profiles reported, his workplace alerted, his social circle informed, the community notified, the truth documented. I didn't lie. I didn't embellish. I didn't manipulate. I used the very tool he always feared the most. Transparency? The truth, once out, did the rest. Last update I received came 2 weeks later. He had been fully extradited, formally charged, and was awaiting the next phase of his case. The details were no longer in my hands. They were in the hands of the legal system, where they belonged. And as for me, I finally felt the weight lift. Not because he was arrested, not because his world was falling apart, not because people finally knew the truth, but because I had finally reclaimed every piece of myself he tried to break. There's a particular kind of peace that comes when you face a monster from your past and realize he no longer has any power over you. A peace that whispers, you survived. You healed. You rose above. And now, he's the one facing consequences, the real ones, not the imaginary ones he used to accuse me of making up. That's the thing about justice. Sometimes it's loud. Sometimes it's messy. But sometimes it's simply the truth finally being seen. I don't gloat. I don't celebrate his downfall. I don't need to. Watching him lose the mask he clung to for so long was all the closure I ever needed. Because for years, he convinced everyone that I was the unstable one, the dramatic one, the problem. But now, he's behind bars, facing the world without his script, without his charm, without the persona he hid behind. And I'm here, standing on the other side, intact, stronger than before. The most satisfying moment wasn't the arrest. It wasn't the newspaper article. It wasn't watching his friends turn on him. It was the moment I realized that he could no longer rewrite the narrative. He could no longer twist the truth. He could no longer pretend to be someone he wasn't. The world finally saw him the way I had seen him for years. Not as the charming golden boy, not as the perfect guy, but as a manipulative predator who finally met consequences he couldn't manipulate his way out of. And for the first time, he was forced to live with the reality he created. That was the real revenge. Not revenge born from cruelty, but revenge born from clarity. At the end of the day, justice isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply the truth finding its way to the surface. Slowly, painfully, but inevitably. And when it finally does, the people who tried to bury it end up buried under it instead. If this story hit home for you, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying moment of justice you've ever witnessed? And if you enjoy emotionally powerful revenge stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because there are many more coming.